And then Christine, if we can test your audio quick, just
Yeah. Hello, testing, testing. Hello.
perfect. And then remind me,
Deshay.
Deshay. Okay, I gotta put a Y at the end.
Deshay. Yep.
Deshay. There we go.
Yep.
All right, Deshay, and your audio is looking good. So,
It's looking good.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All
Ready?
right.
Hello, guys. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us. We're
We're
Yes.
excited to
excited.
be here.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited to chat with you. So, we are introducing these two lovely ladies today. If you guys would introduce yourself, who are you? What do you do? And how do you two work together? Deshay, if you want to go first.
Okay. We're both being very polite.
Yeah.
Um, So my name is Desha Peacock, and yes, that is my real name. People sometimes ask because it is unusual. And I live in southern Vermont with my daughter and husband and kitty cat. But I love to travel, hence why I created a business where I could work from anywhere. So I am a small business and lifestyle coach, and I lead retreats and I write home decor books. So I'm definitely a multi-passionate entrepreneur, I'd say. And very driven by my lifestyle and where I want to live and the work that's meaningful. So I live in Vermont in the summer and the spring, and then I try to zip on out of here in the winter and head to Mexico.
Oh, sounds lovely. I need to go visit where everybody escapes to in the winter or in Mexico or Southern California or wherever. It just looks so lovely. Christine, who are you? What do you do?
Okay, my name is Christine Martin, and I am a holistic interior designer. My company is called The Good Abode. I've had it for almost 10 years now, and it's an online interior design company. It's a platform that I've created to help me be as remote as possible. So a lot of people don't really understand how interior design can happen remotely, but it is possible.
Mhm.
And so I get to have clients all around the world. I get to be geographically independent. So all I have to do is take my laptop wherever I go. And then aside from that, I do a handful of in-person projects, and sometimes I get called on to sites. So I actually am so excited. I'm going to Copenhagen, Denmark, at the end of June to work on a project there. So like Deshay, love to travel, had the bug since I was a kid, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I live most of the time in Baja California Sur in a small town called Todos Santos.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And it seems like we kind of have this, all three of us have this like shared value of wanting a business that we were able to travel and move around and kind of that like more freedom-based lifestyle. How do you feel like this is a piece of like how can you fit this in? Because I think a lot of people think that the travel inside of business and the opportunity to have that freedom is actually really hard because there's so many things and how do you manage all of it? Where do you feel like, Christine, we can start with you, that this like kind of balance fits into your schedule and the ability to travel and go to all of these and other incredible places, manage your time and your schedule and all of that?
I think it's an organic management, or it's something that I had to get used to myself. I mean, because I was always drawn to travel. I started out as an international teacher, so I had, a set, hours of work and salary and everything. So I had that stability to start with, but was able to travel from the city that I worked from a lot. And then I slowly pivoted into this online interior design career. So I straddled both jobs for a while until I was able to fully go into online interior design and be able to come up with my own schedule. Of course, it requires some, commitment and just trying to create your own. Deshay and I always joke around about how to create our own schedule during the day because it changes all the time, especially
Yeah.
if you're traveling. But it is one of the priorities you have to do when you are opting for this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot too. Is they're like, well, how do you map out your days? I'm like, well, so many days, they're so different, but
I
it's
know.
just knowing your priorities. How do you get there and kind of piecing them into different places? And I think what you said about like really at the foundations of your brand, you just wove into the freedom and into the location element of it is it was intentionally created that way for you to be able to travel through it. Desha, what about you? Where do you feel like you can fit the freedom and the travel and kind of just building a business with that infused into it?
Well, mine's a little bit different from you guys because I'm mostly stationed in Vermont and I have a family, which is, different. So my daughter's now 17.
Yeah,
So in the beginning, when I first started my business, which was also about 10 years ago, she was little. She
yeah,
was like 6 years old. And my husband and I had to figure out like how do I travel and work? And so really that's kind of where the retreats were born
yeah.
because I could be like, well, mom has to go to Mexico for work. You
Like,
know,
sorry, it's a work trip.
like this is part of my work, so I have to go. But of course, I wanted my daughter and I are super close, and I wanted her to be with me. And so from the very beginning, I would just take her with me. Now, not when I was leading retreat, because retreat is like a super intensive period where I have to be 100% on and I can't really be a mom and a business person at the same time. But I would just rearrange it. Every year was different for 10 years, bringing Isla. I would sometimes ask a friend, hey, could you come and visit me and stay with me in this pretty place? But please also bring my daughter with you. And
Yeah.
then have my husband come and bring her back. And so we would do this swapping thing where we would go back and forth. So I could be there for a week or two, and then she could come for a week or two. And she missed a lot of school, but that's okay because my husband, he's a teacher, but we both agreed that was important for her. It was tricky as a family unit when she was little because he also didn't want to be away from her.
Yeah.
But as she got older, she started going longer periods of time until when she was 12, when she was in sixth grade, we both moved to Mexico for 6 months and she actually went to school there.
Cool.
So, yeah, just basically figuring it out. I think everybody's in a different season of their life, depending on what kind of partner they have, or if they have kids, or what kind of support they have with their family, and just also like financially how to do it. But it's okay for it to evolve in different ways, and it definitely will.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's a really important part is people talk about building this like freedom-based life for this intentional life and business alongside of it with travel involved is I think a lot of people just think that it's like there's a secret framework that you can just do this and like there's a schedule that you follow and you travel during these hours, but it really is yes, it's infusing these like freedom kind of foundational elements like you know that these were your values and let me try to figure out what fits into my life and my business whether you have a family and a partner or it's just you and you have this other business or whatever it really is, trying to figure it out. And there's really no like secret framework to fitting it in. It's just you know your values and you kind of fit it in from there.
Yeah, it looks different for everyone, I would say. Yeah, there's no handbook to it at all. And you just have to, I think, be very open to trying different things and going with flow sometimes and being okay with you know intended plans not working out and just
Yeah.
the flexibility has to come on all parts, like on all sides of creating a lifestyle like this,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a definite finding the bits and pieces that work for you. Having the flexibility that like, oh, this took a little bit longer, so it's 8 p.m. and I do have to respond to these emails still. It's still there.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also say that's the beauty of it, and that you get to
Mhm.
create your schedule based on what you enjoy, what type of personality you have. Because, talking about schedules, I don't like a schedule. I don't like to do the same thing every day. I don't want to know what I'm doing 2 months from now at 3 o'clock p.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that, that depends on how you like to work best. So, if you're the type of person who likes everything scheduled out, then you can do that. And then you have to work around your travel. But I think most people who like to travel probably like the sense of adventure and curiosity and probably don't love a lot of schedule. So you get to create how you want.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys talk a lot about this, like building a life and a business of intentionality is like really intentionally building it for who you are. Kind of introduce that topic to the audience and what does that really mean? And when you do talk about it, how do you identify what you really want to intentionally build?
Christine.
You're all good.
Well, if this is the basis of what brought, I don't think we answered this question earlier on when you asked, how Desha and I, joined forces. We actually met on Instagram and got to know each other there. And because Desha was running retreats in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, I was living there at the time. We got to meet up over coffee and realize, oh my gosh, we have so much in common.
Yeah.
We both have this thrill of design and travel and all of these things. We're both entrepreneurs. And so fast forward, what, Desha, 4 years later, 5 years later? I don't know.
Something like that.
Well, something like that. We decided to put this summit together called She Designs. And the whole purpose and essence of it really was based around the things that brought us together, which is being inspired by seeing women entrepreneurs who are out there and following their passions, the things that they love to do, and creating a business and lifestyle around it, and having them as sort of our models or expanders at one point in our lives. And we, grabbed onto that and created our own versions of it. And we thought it would be wonderful to create our She Designs podcast to share those stories, those journeys of women who do it in so many different ways, but who do align in their stories in being intentional about how they create their businesses, what's important to them, what do they value, and if it's freedom, or if it's being with family, having more time, or if it's just being able to call the shots and not giving all their creative juices to somebody else's company. That being the basis, and then hearing the stories of how they each came to their place of creating a business for themselves is fascinating. It's really it continues to inspire us as we hear more and more stories.
I love that. And I think it's so cool how different so many people's stories are, because they do value different things. They have different intentions in their business, but yet we have a similar goal. It's like, I have this business and I want to grow it, but because business is not like, it's so multifaceted, you can kind of choose the story of how you got to there, how you came up with the idea, and how you developed your business in order to get it to where you want it to be.
Right.
Yeah. What do you guys say to people that are like speaking, they have an idea, they have a business, but they're more so just like, I just like kind of started this business and it just got here, but I don't really know where it's going to go. I'm building it, but like, I'm kind of just building it because I wanted a little side money, but now I'm really liking it. How do I start developing this business kind of with intention by design that actually kind of fulfills them in a bunch of different ways?
Okay, well, I'll dive into that one. So I would say, because I'm a small business and lifestyle coach, I would say write a lifestyle intention. And a lifestyle intention is different than a goal.
Yeah.
A goal is like a very specific thing. Like a goal would be like, I want to be a freelance writer and make $100,000 a year. With a lifestyle intention, it's more of the circumstances around how you want to live. And so it might be, I want the ability to travel. I want the ability to work the hours that I create or that fit for my personality. And then you get to get really detailed with that. Like for me and my lifestyle intention, it says I want to be surrounded by beauty, because interiors and exteriors and flowers and gardens and sunshine, all that kind of stuff affect my energy level. And so I want to be surrounded by that. So I would put that in my lifestyle intention. Also, it could be that I want to draw in work that's creative or meaningful. And I think that you kind of have to just stop all the noise of Instagram and social media and even your family and friends and culture, and really tap in, get quiet, like go somewhere in nature or journal or whatever it is you need to do to get quiet, and really reflect on the question of what it is that you truly want and you truly desire, and then build the business around those concepts, because that will really determine your business model. And then even thinking about what gives you energy in your business. I think sometimes you have to really just jump in and dive in to see what you do and don't like. So I started off as a one-to-one coach, but I've tried everything, all the different business models, like digital products and group coaching and
Yeah.
retreats. And what I really like is one-on-one coaching. Now, the online marketing world would say it's time to level up. You need to expand
Group
and scale
programs and make it
you know,
scalable. Yeah.
why work with one person when you could work with 1,000? But I get more joy and meaning and fulfillment out of working one-to-one and small groups.
Yeah.
So I think that, everybody has to kind of look at what's important to them, their values and their desires, really, truly from the heart. And then ask what kind of business model would fit that. And then just
Yeah.
dive in and see where the energy is.
I think that is so good. And I think a lot of people do it opposite, where they're like, I have this product or I have this idea, I have this service, and I really want to sell it. And then they try to like, okay, where does this fit into the life that I have? Or like, how do I create a life around this, as opposed to having a life separate to it and then building your business into the life and this lifestyle that you really want to live. Kind of like we were saying, is we all intentionally wanted to travel. And so I built a business, or we all built businesses around how can I travel? How can I move around? How can I have this like level of freedom? Some people don't want to be able to travel, but they want to be able to make their own calendar. They want to be able to have that time that they can kind of choose from there. And it does, like, they get to choose, okay, I want to be able to be at home with my kids for these amount of hours a day, or like have every weekend and take the summers off and kind of build that business around it, because that's the lifestyle that you have. How do you feel like, I think a lot of people are like, okay, that sounds great, but I don't really know that lifestyle because I want this business to work. Like, I want this business to fit. I don't really know this lifestyle that I really want to have. How do you feel like you really become intentional with the values that you have in order to even create a lifestyle that you're looking for?
Christine?
Goodness. I guess, it sounds pretty like textbook, but I've done this exercise a number of times, and I know Brene Brown, for example, has a list of values. I don't know how many, it's probably like 100 different values. And she kind of goes through this exercise with you of like weaning it down to narrowing it down to probably about 3 or 4 that really are highlighted for you, and I think these are practices that we don't ever do at school. I mean, it's not one of these things that, it's kind of like very essential to the human spirit to figure out what your values are, before you sign up for, this is going to be my major in school and I'm going to be this, or, whatever it is. And so at whatever age we do these kinds of exercises, it's okay, because it really like stills us and brings us down to the essence of who we are, what we love. And a lot of times what I find is it takes you back to being a kid. Like, what did you love doing as a kid? For me, it was like, I remember I loved coloring. I loved coloring books. I love coloring. I am not an artist, but I do love color, and it is an integral part to interior design. And then I love collages, and I loved like putting up like postcards and tearing out things from magazines and putting it on my wall, on my bedroom wall. And so I started doing design in my own little space. I shared a room with my little sister, my own little space on my own wall, at, whatever, 8, 9, 10 years old. And so if you like trace back to the things that really, created a spark in you, sometimes that's a good place to start.
Yeah. And I really feel like when you have those values and you create this lifestyle around your business, it allows you to put more emphasis on things that also just make you happy outside of business, and it'll avoid that burnout. It'll avoid that I have nothing else going on in my life other than running this business. It'll make you prioritize. If you do have this space that kind of inspires you, or you have this life that you've been able to build, it allows you to prioritize, if it's health and wellness, or prioritize travel, or prioritize hobbies, or other things that do make you happy, a social life where it's not just this business that's all consuming.
Exactly. I mean, the burnout's a real thing. And especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're wearing all these hats and you're really, there's a dozen things that you could be doing more of. So really taking a step back and introducing like you said, things that bring you joy, that bring you relaxation, that bring you wellness, and really finding that balance so that that
Yeah.
doesn't happen, because that's super important.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like
And
that. Go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry. Well, I was just going to chime in on this one because as you were talking, Christine, I was thinking like, I think a lot of times the clarity comes from our discomfort,
Mm.
so it was like, why did I start my business? It was, well, I would wake up every day and have to go to work and say to myself, I wish I could sleep longer.
Yeah.
You know, like in the
Yes.
winter here, I wish I wasn't freezing my tail end off right now. Like I wish I was in Baja. I wish I was,
Yeah.
and so part of it, I think, is just taking a look and you don't even need to take a look. You probably know very well where you're uncomfortable and where you have wishes.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to just be like, oh well, that's for other people to go to Mexico in the winter. I live here, I can't afford it, this and that. Like it's easy to come up with all the reasons why you can't, but maybe to flip the script and just say, okay, well, how can I change this, and how can my business actually help me to
Yeah.
to get more of what I want in my life?
Yeah. I think that's such a great way to look at it. Is just in the points that we hate in our day, or the things that we wish we had, the things that we like are like, oh, we're just struggling with so hard. Those are probably the points of where we need to build some of this intentionality into. I think that's really good. You guys are both designers, and I know you both speak about kind of building a space that you feel inspired by and kind of helping people with that. What does that look like? Because I think a lot of people are probably curled up on their couch or laying in their bed or somewhere in they're like in a ball at their kitchen table trying to do this, and thinking that that space doesn't inspire them. And I have seen this as well. I will do whatever it takes to make my space feel more fun for me to be in and feel more fun to work. I'm in my bus right now, and I made this like cute little bistro set outside. I went to Target, spent like $200 to make this cute little bistro set because I knew I would feel better about working outside and it would be fun. Kind of put your guys' 2 cents on that. Is why is that having that home office or home space to kind of inspire you so important?
Well, I mean, your your space is everything. Your environment is everything. It's going to dictate your mood, your thoughts, your productivity, your level of energy, all of it. And I think more and more people are tuning into that, like the connection between your space and who you
Yeah.
are. And so when we're talking about creating a workspace, I mean, I love your example, Maddie, because I think it's just a matter of taking that first step and doing something about your space. It's about like finding that, if maybe you are confined to just using your dining room table as your desk as well, but get a little vase and put some flowers in it, or go outside and cut some, a beautiful brand or something that brings life into your workspace and is organic and is, it kind of lifts your energy a bit. Or if having on your wall like an art piece that has colors that just like everyone feels colors in different ways. Identify
Yeah.
what colors make you, more energetic or happy, or it's all about really paying attention and being mindful and just doing one or two little things that can make a huge difference. I
Yeah.
remember being in a cafe in Portland, Oregon, and there was like a bunch of people just working on their laptops on, upstairs. And there's a young woman who came and sat next to me, and she pulled out this scarf and she put it out over the table. Then she pulled out this little crystal and put it
Oh,
down. And
I
then
love
she
it.
poured the coffee into her own coffee cup and put it, and I looked over and she just had this little ritual that she had set up and I admired it so much because she seems so much more like she had created her
Element.
own domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Oh,
was
I love
very
that.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
from Portland too. It's just like
Yeah.
let me bring all my cute little artistic trinkets to the coffee shop and set up my spot. It's so Portland. It's so funny.
All right. Right.
Oh, yeah, I love that. And I think it just really takes it's knowing the things that do inspire you. I mean, I got a little vase with some fresh flowers, a cute little lantern that's like on solar power, turn it on out there. And every morning when I do my morning routine, sitting at my cute little bistro table with my coffee, I am like so inspired. I'm like, I feel so good. It makes me happy. And my boyfriend said the same thing. So I was like, what should we do outside? Like, I kind of want a space to work. And he was like, whatever is going to make you sit down and feel so happy with it. Like, that is what you should put out there, because that is like, you're going to get way more enjoyment out of it than I will. And so I'm like, all right, let me go ahead. And I had so much fun picking it out, creating it. And every morning I'm like, oh, it's just so cute. And it makes me want to work a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Deshay, what about you? How do you create your space?
Well, yeah. So I was just thinking about how your space can give you so much clarity in your business. And when I was trying to figure out in the beginning what my business was about, I knew I wanted that. So it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm really clear on my lifestyle intention. I know the circumstances around it, but what the heck is this business? Like, how do I actually make money? And so I was listening to a course on starting a digital business and all that kind of stuff, how to work from anywhere, how to figure this stuff out. And I just wasn't getting the clarity. And I went into my office, and at the time, it was so not me. It so did not reflect who I was. It had office grade blue carpet. It had like duck wallpaper with the borders. And I had some cheap IKEA book stand that was so full of like quote unquote inspiration, like books and magazines and articles. And so that one day I came in and I was like, oh my God, the bookcase is leaning. And I told my husband, I was like, look at this. The bookcase is like, it's leaning over. I think we need to like get a new one or fix it or do something, and then shortly after it just exploded. Like it had so much stuff on it.
Yeah.
It exploded, and books and everything went flying everywhere, and it was a big pile of wood mess. And so I took everything out, and then in that moment I was like, I got to redo this office. So I just pulled up the carpet with my hands, like with my bare hands, no tools, just ripped up the carpet, started ripping down the wallpaper, spraying it, painted the whole thing white, and just the thought that I had was, how can I build an office that feels like who I aspire to be in this
Yeah.
office?
Mm.
What I don't know what the thing is that I'm supposed to do, but what does the office look like that I'm going to be working in when I know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was not the way it looked at the time. It was so cluttered and dark and uninspirational and really ugly. It was the last room in our house to redo. And that's telling too. It's like, why was that the last room? Maybe that should have been one of the first rooms. But I added a French door. So I added in light and I painted everything white. I painted the wood floor white. And now I just have some art around me and my books and everything. And through that process, I did gain clarity. I did decide what my business was going to be about. I did pick the name. Sweet Spot Style is the name of my brand. Um, so yeah,
I
I
love
even
that.
yeah, I wrote a book about it. So if you need inspiration visually, I wrote a whole book on it. It's called Your Creative Workspace. So if you need to get inspiration visually, go get the book. If you want to hire a designer, you should definitely hire Christine.
There you go.
Thank you.
If you want the support, if you just want some ideas, here we have both. I think that
Yeah.
idea of building a space to that the person that you aspire to be would want to be in, and that would be, and you hear that a lot, kind of like, take action as if you are that person already and it'll come sooner. But the space is something that I feel like isn't often spoken about, is like the space that you're in. I mean, that's how I feel in my bus. I created my bus. I built every inch of it other than the engine and the actual body of the bus, where like I built all of it, and it makes me so inspired being here. I could like cry thinking about the fact that I've even built it. But I had a lot of friends that lived in vans before and did the van life thing. And to me, it always felt so like dungeony. It felt so
Mhm.
dark. There's like one wall or one window, and they have it blocked up so no one can see in. Whereas the bus has like, my gosh, they're like 3-4 foot windows along the whole thing. And it's so light and it's so bright and it's so airy. And when I wake up in here, like I feel that inspiration. And I think it makes a really big difference, is having that space that you just like, you have so much passion for. What are your guys's like tips and tricks of even finding that style? Like, for whoever, which one has that. I'm sure you guys both have different ones, but finding that style that just really lights you up, for somebody that's like, honestly, I have no idea. I'm not an interior designer. I'm not somebody that knows how to do that. What are your tips and tricks?
Well, I think
I
Kristen I was just going to say, you're so good at this. you should answer this question, but I would just say for me, travel was really inspirational. Like in Mexico, just being in different Airbnbs or even just different cafes, and then
Yeah.
coming back to Vermont. But also just thinking about my roots because I'm from Arkansas. And so there's in Arkansas in the South, there's like hanging out on your front porch, and it's not so much that way here because most of the time it's winter. So I really wanted to create a beautiful front porch where I can work from as well. And Christine actually helped me with the design of the front porch. And take it from there, Christine. Like you're such an expert in this.
Well, so and I think a lot of people feel that they're not good at design. And where I've come to now is that does Maddie, kind of like talking about what you were saying in the last question, our spaces can become like these manifestation portals, and they have that capability, they have that function. So if we can just, pick one or two things that we like, it doesn't even have to be on trend. It doesn't have to be something that you see on Pinterest. It's like you go, to a flea market or something, and you find like an old lamp, and you're like, that's really cool, or a painting, or just something that moves you. Start there. Start with what inspires feeling, and then it kind of it'll come. Like, for example, I gravitate towards art with a certain type of color palette, but I just moved into this new place that has these bright yellow chairs, and I would never ever think to pick bright yellow or like a baby blue cabinet. The windows have pink trims. It's like rainbow bright, threw up all over this place. And I was like, what the heck am I going to do with this? And then I thought, this is an invitation for me to embrace a whole different color palette,
Yeah.
I'm entering this new phase in my life. There's a lot of things have fallen away, new exciting things are emerging. And I'm just like, I'm gonna roll with it and embrace the color. And so now I've just gone color happy. And I'm like, okay, and it's actually bringing me a lot of joy. Like looking around, I'm like, okay, this is just, you can't help but smile. It's like
Yeah.
cheerful,
Yeah, I am somebody that's pretty neutral, like in clothing, my spaces. It's been that way for a long time. And like my branding is browns and neutrals, and it's just like it's always kind of how it's been. And recently I've like found myself more like I bought a water bottle that was like bright yellow. I'm like, wow, that is so not, but for whatever reason I was drawn to it when I was doing my space outside. There was like a lot of pastel pinks and blues and yellows, and it was the same thing that I was like, why am I so drawn to these colors? Even though it doesn't normally fit my color scheme, like let me just kind of play with it. And
Totally.
I think it does. It brings joy. And if you are neutral, you're neutral, and that's great. And the neutrals brought me joy too. But finding those colors and the bits and the pieces. And I think for me, it was like scrolling Pinterest and finding spaces that were just like, ooh, I loved that. Like you said, it like evoked feeling. Whatever that feeling was, it was just like, ooh, that felt like me. Ooh, that felt like me. And then kind of looking at those overall themes of, okay, it was like very organic. There's a lot of wood, there's a lot of neutrals, there's a lot of whatever, all of these different things throughout. Now, how can I embody this into my own thing and kind of create the own space by like wherever I wanted to go from there? I feel like that is just, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And having like Pinterest can be, you can go down the rabbit hole there, but it's like, it's really such a wonderful place for inspiration. And if, even with just the intentionality, we make vision boards all the time. It's like, it's a digital vision board. It's like, okay, who is this future self, and what's her space going to look like? And it's just going pin happy, and then like you said, seeing where the things overlap, and maybe start with one of the things like, oh, okay, there is a lot of wood. Well, maybe I need to introduce more wood into my space. Or I really love all the plants. Like there's so many plants in these images. Well, get a plant, get two, get five,
Yeah.
It's a fun process when you start getting into it, and then you start noticing that it's making a difference, not just in your mood, but like it trickles into other aspects of your life. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing the connection between space and how we interact and move through the world. It's really, really cool.
It is. It is very cool. And I think it's inspirational. And I love your example of the person in Portland sitting at a coffee table and like with a scarf and putting, like, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to pack my little coffee shop bag and have these things. It's so fun. I love it so much. And so both of you guys are business owners. Both of you guys are designers. Both of you guys have really built this like freedom kind of based business with intentionality behind what you really wanted to do. I would love to hear kind of a practical tip that both of you have for a business owner. If you were like business owners, this is my ode to you. This is something that every business owner really needs to feel or do. If each of you have something that you're like, I just really feel whatever you want to put your rant into, that business owners really need to do to build that life with intentionality. Either one of you want to go first? Go ahead.
Okay. Sure, I'll dive in. The first thing that came to my mind is like probably super boring to a lot of people and very practical, but I tell all of my clients one of the first questions I ask them is how many people do you have on your email list, and do you have an email list? So I know that a lot of people are really, really, really curious about how to grow on social media, and I am on social media. I love Instagram. I'm on it a lot, but I recently heard that, your reach on Instagram or pretty much any social media platform is generally like 1 or 2%. And an average open rate for your email list is 20%. But most of my clients and myself, we have, 40 to 60% open rate. And so it's like, if you're going to spend all the time and energy to get your message out, do you want 1 or 2% of people to see it or more? Now, I know the problem is, but how do you grow your email list? And excuse me. And so often we go to social media to grow our email list. So I would just say, reframe the way you think about social media. Instead of thinking like, how can I get more followers? I would say, think, how can I grow my email list through my social media? Just that little tweak.
Yeah. And having email being part of your, like the major part of your buying process, and social media is just a step before it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
I love that example, Desha, because I've been actually spending a lot more time on my newsletters and on my audience, my email list audience, and I feel like it brings me a lot more joy than racking my brain for, what kind of reel or post or whatever am I going to put up next, and then they're crickets. It's like it takes so much time to create this content, and sometimes the engagement isn't so rewarding. But I guess for me, it would be there's a common thread in the women that we interview on the She Designs podcast where we all identify that entrepreneurship can be lonely, and there are times where you just feel like you're going at it, and you might want to throw in the towel, and it's hard to keep up with all of the things. I would say it's important to find your circle, your network, your support system as you're building your business, and maintain it. And whether that's, a group on Facebook or listening to a podcast of women entrepreneurs, or, going on a retreat, or, something that really builds that sense of community, and not feeling alone, and being able to, ask questions or be vulnerable with where you're at in your business, I think is a huge part of us, keeping our sanity and also nourishing our souls as we're doing it.
Yeah. Space, your interior space as well as your community are two major pieces. And where we are now in Washington, kind of like the Hood River, Oregon area, I've seen it because I've been in communities for an extended period of time where like I didn't feel inspired. And when you're around a group of people that everybody has a business, everybody has a project, everybody's doing something that is just like chasing a passion, whether it's a hobby or it's a sport, because there's so much recreation here, or it is a business or something, it's so nourishing to be around people that are, even if they're not like, doing what you're doing, you can at least speak to, it's just like there's a different level of connection when you're all like just talking about things that you're doing that are cool and have big goals, and it's like, oh, okay, like that's awesome. Let's talk about it. Like what are you working on? What are you excited about? It's just a different level. I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if I've met a single entrepreneur that would say it's not lonely at some point. I think it's a very common thread. I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
Desha and Christine, thank you guys so much for being here. This was so wonderful. Loved chatting with you guys. Where can people find you? Where can they listen to your podcast, of your conversations? Feel free to just send people where they can find you.
Well, you can listen to our podcast at She Designs Podcast on it. Well, you can find our page on Instagram, She Designs Podcast, and our website is shedesigns.podcast.com. And I'm at The Good Boat. You can find me there, mostly on Instagram. And yeah.
The Good Boat.
The
Shay,
Good
what
Boat.
about you?
Yeah, and mine is my crazy name, Desha Peacock. So it's Desha, Desha, and then Peacock like the bird. And if you can't remember that, well, go to the She Designs podcast and it'll be linked.
You'll find you there. Yep, She Designs.
Yeah.
I'll link them all below as well, so you guys can find it there. Thank you guys
Cool.
again so much for being here. This has been so wonderful. And we're gonna all have an episode on their podcast as well if you want to head over there and listen to their interview with me too.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thanks so much, Maddie.
Have a great day.